The prayer that I will read now invokes the shape of Christ, which of course is the crucified Christ. The shape of Christ be towards you. The shape of Christ be to you. The shape of Christ be before you. The shape of Christ be behind you. The shape of Christ be over you. The shape of Christ be under you. The shape of Christ be with you. The shape of Christ be around you. On Monday and on Sunday, the shape of Christ be within you. Sunrise to sunset, each day, each night of your portion in this world, the shape of Christ be within you. I wanted to begin with a prayer, and these are some of the Celtic prayers collected from the islands and the highlands towards the end of the 1800s, and I shall end with another prayer, because following our previous video, we've received a lot of comments, and I want to thank everybody for sending them, including people who clearly disagree with things that I have said, and I appreciate that, and I accept the fact that we have different brains and different life experiences, but that is the point of these videos. The point of any conversation should not be that we find our own choir of people applauding what we have to say, of people we know they already pre-approve of what we say. The point of a life-giving friendship, relationship, or conversation is that you open up to hear the other one, is that you trust that the other one speaks out of love and out of true conviction. There's no agenda hidden behind it. There is no secondary interest hidden behind it. It is just love, a human being trying to understand himself and the world and hopefully God better by interacting, by reaching out, by sharing thoughts and feelings with another human being. And we need to be able to do that in safety, and we need to be able to do that in the hope, if not the certainty, that the other ones are going to receive us with love and with openness. Because if we don't have that, then our hearts shrink, our hearts get shielded. We all do that. It is an instinct to shield ourselves against any sort of harm, any sort of abuse. But I don't want to do that. I do want to be honest, and I do want to grow and to learn by sharing what I believe to be the truth with you. I have openly and in love shared with you my thoughts about racism and abuse. And you have, I pray, openly and in love shared your responses. I still hold on to what I said because I still believe that the main message that should be put out there is that both the abused and the abuser should learn to speak to each other from a place of love. When you open your mouth, ask yourself if there is a place of love in your heart. And if you don't speak from that place, then it's better to wait until you reach that place within yourself. Because if you don't speak from that place, you are only contributing more poison to an already poisoned and almost poisonous world. There are 2 or 3 reactions of my own to your own comments that I want to share with you today, and I will try to keep them brief. The first thing has to do pretty much with what we've been saying so far. We need to learn how to talk to each other, both in our own personal relationships and at large within our own communities and our own countries, we need to learn to speak to each other. When you open a conversation, you have to be open to the potential that you may be wrong, that the other person may have something to say which you haven't considered or you haven't experienced. There are things for all of us that we are not aware of, that we have not experienced, because our lives look differently from the lives of the people we speak to. When we talk about an abuse, whatever kind of abuse we are talking about, the way to truth is not to speak to the abuser, but to begin speaking with the abused. I don't want to give you the example of racism because it is a very difficult example at the moment. But if you think of other forms of abuse, if you think of the obvious ones, like for instance, a molested child, the way to find out the truth about the experience is not to approach the adult, but to approach the child. You approach the child and you find a way in which you allow the child to speak. You don't even ask the child out front, has he or she done this to you? Because the child will be afraid, the child will be scared. There is a shield that you develop to protect you against further abuse. And in time, you learn to value that shield more than you value yourself, the truth about who you are. If we are honest about trying to learn about abuse, we should stop talking to our own choirs. We should stop talking to our own cultural ghettos and engage those who are abused. It is an act of further violence to even question the existence of racism in America when all those who could potentially be affected by racism are protesting today. Look at the streets. These are the potential victims of racism. This is not about one unfortunate poor black man who has been shot by the police. This is so much more. There are tens of thousands of people who have been in the streets days after days after days. Look at them and try to hear them. Try to ask them questions in a way that doesn't bring anger in your heart, in a way that shows you to be a frail human being that is accepting of the fact that he or she, that you may have been wrong, that you may not have listened to the right people or in the right way. Unless we learn to speak with those who are abused, we shall never really understand abuse. Because we all have our own choirs, our own cultural ghettos around ourselves. And if we stick to those, we shall hear the same things again and again our whole lives. It takes courage. Courage that comes out of love and a desire to understand your brothers and your sisters. It takes courage to open up and to ask a question in order to learn. There is then the question of protesting and leaving aside violence. You know, all of you, that I have spoken repeatedly against any form of violence. Any opportunity I've had, I have spoken against any form of violence. This is not about supporting violence. But to tell someone who has been abused all his or her life, to tell someone who has gone through a traumatic experience that they cannot protest, that they cannot voice their suffering, is another form of violence and simply adds to the abuse. The experience of abuse is so much more complex than just the act of being physically or mentally abused in one certain circumstance. The act of the abuse, for instance, is a child being molested, or a man or a woman being raped or beaten, or that poor black man being killed, or the other black man being hunted down the street like a wild animal while he was jogging and killed. These are acts of abuse. But abuse, the experience of abuse, does not start with the act that we see and does not end with that act. Abuse is so much more complex and shapes who you are. That is, in fact, the most dreadful thing that abuse does, because you are born within a context of abuse. You are born being the wrong color or the wrong gender, or being with some sort of a sign on your face, or you have a problem with one of your arms or one of your legs, or there's something that sets you aside from what society at large considers to be a proper, full human being. And you are born into that, and then everyone around you, those who love and want to protect you, as much as the ones who want to hurt you, they all treat you differently. And their love and their hatred, they all point to that sore spot, which is the color of your skin or your gender or whatever is that makes you unique and not like everyone else. And that thing, instead of being the thing that defines you in your uniqueness as a human being, that thing becomes just suffocating and an element of constant abuse. You learn to be afraid. You learn that you are different. You learn to adapt and play games. You learn where it is safe for you to be, for you to go. You learn how it is safe or unsafe for you to behave, what is safe for you to say, what are the safe conversations you can get involved in, and what are the conversations you should stay out of. You learn all these things about yourself and the way in which the world sees you, and in time you learn to see yourself that way, and you become this person who is not yourself. And then you get in your teens and your 20s and your 30s, and you don't know why you have this anger bottled up inside, just breaking from the inside, that is visible in such horrible ways, from you becoming an abuser yourself, you having these fits of anger and violence, you beginning to drink or to use drugs, or having all sorts of strange, unhealthy, self-destructive behaviors. All of these come from an awareness deep down that who you have become is not who you are, and that the life you live is not your life. And all of this is because from the moment you were born, you have been told that you are wrong, that you are not a proper, full human being just because your skin is of a different color, or just because you are not a man, or just because you are not of the right nationality in the right country. I speak of my own experience, and I speak from the experience of my brothers and my sisters in Christ, whom I see protesting today, because I choose to listen to them, because I choose to believe that those tens of thousands of people out there are not all crazy, are not all brainwashed somehow. The experience of abuse begins as early as birth in many, many cases, and never ends until the day we die. And to tell someone who has gone through something so traumatic for all their lives, to tell someone who is finally understanding that this anger in me is not because of me, is not because I am truly a second-hand or third-hand world citizen or human being, but because I have been suffocated from the moment I was born. To tell someone who needs to vent out that anger, to express the frustration of having lived the wrong life and having become the wrong person, to tell them to be quiet, to tell them to shut down. Keep quiet and don't trouble the peacefulness of our streets. That is abuse itself. That is a violence itself. And you can only understand that if you go deep down in your heart, in that place of love and compassion that I encouraged you to be when you speak to someone who claims to have gone through an experience of abuse. Don't allow your politics to blind you. This is the final thing I want to mention to you briefly today. Don't allow politics to blind you. I know people with hearts made of gold who hear things I have to say and only hear politics. But I cannot be more naked in my heart before you. I could not be more honest in my mind before you as I am now. I am aware that what I say can be taken as a political statement. I am aware that every time you say words like abortion, racism, gun ownership, you just trigger all these political references. But the options there for me are only two: to never mention them, or to own up to the fact that some people will simply not have the ability within them to see beyond these political references. And I cannot be quiet about them, because that would be failing myself, first of all, failing Christ's commandment, who tells me to keep on speaking, and failing everyone who is affected by these horrible things. We need to learn again to hear a conversation. Do you realize that by this point in this recording, about 50-60% of people have already stopped listening? Because we've learned to listen based on just tags, like hot button words, as you call them. And then we just make our judgment very quickly, the first 2-3 minutes of hearing someone speak out. But the problem with that approach is that you can only be pro one side or another. You cannot overcome this division in 1 or 2 minutes. You can revert to slogans, things that just sound well and will become viral on the internet. But that's not a conversation. There is no depth there. You haven't interacted with me, with my heart, with my brain, and I haven't interacted with yours. And this is what we should be aiming for. Most people today respond to just certain words, certain ideas, and the minute they come out of your mouth, they will instantly judge what you have to say before they hear you out. Most people will listen to 1 or 2 minutes of a video and make their assessment and their judgment of that person, of that video and that message based on those 1-2 minutes. This is the society we live in. And this is the society we have to face and fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean that in a destructive sort of way, but fight in the sense of transforming it, because we are part of it and eat that humanity out there that doesn't agree with us. You who don't agree with me, you are part of me, and I have to create peace within this oneness of my own being. I will finish with another prayer from our Celtic saints. But before that, I do want to ask for your forgiveness. I cannot take away anything I said in this video or the previous video, because this is what I know to be the truth, and I cannot fail you by telling you something that is fake. Why would I do it? Why would I do it? For what reason? If you want to support the monastery, if that is what is at the back of your heads, then you will support the monastery regardless what I have to say. because you are supporting the monastery for Christ, not for me. I am made of flesh and bones, and in 20 years or in 2 hours, God only knows, I will be dead, and I will rot, and I will become just food for our worms. Don't do anything for me. Do it because you believe in this monastery and because of your love for the saints of these islands. I can only try my best for my entire life, whatever that may be, to be honest, because I want to grow, and I know I can only grow if I am honest, and if I hear you, and I engage with you from that place of love in my heart. The blessings of God and the Lord be yours. The blessing of the perfect Spirit be yours. The blessing of the three be pouring for you mildly and generously, mildly and generously. The love of your Creator be with you. The love of the three be to you. The love of Christ be to you and to the beloved of your heart. To you and to the beloved of your heart. Amen.